So when we're talking spiritual seeker, we're talking about someone who's interested in raising their consciousness levels and attaining enlightenment. And that's quite a task because it runs against our survival mechanism, which doesn't involve surrender. And so it's difficult. It is quite difficult because we've got to go and defeat our own survival mechanism to really raise our consciousness levels. Because our survival mechanism, which is a series of programs, mostly fear, keep us locked in lower consciousness. And this lower consciousness is what most of the humans around the world operate from. They don't operate from higher consciousness. If they did, we'd have a very beautiful world to live in. But we don't have a very beautiful world to live in because of lower consciousness. So the seeker is someone who's decided to go for higher consciousness, to go for enlightenment, and usually to do this, they find someone who is enlightened and they go and hang out with them. They take someone on as their guide or their teacher who has achieved and knows the way. And so the seeker has a thirst for truth, a thirst for freedom, a thirst to know themselves as beingness. Different motivators come into play though. Some people are motivated by wanting to get away from suffering, wanting to get away from the discomforts of the world that we live in. Others are motivated by curiosity. They just want to know, they're just curious, they want to see what's going on. And these two different types of people, and there can be a combination of both, get so far. The wanting to get away from things gets you so far towards high consciousness. The curiosity gets you so far. But what makes the difference for the seeker is the love of truth. Without that love of truth, there is no real possibility. It is in the love of truth that a person becomes willing to lay down their life for truth, to lay down their life, which is basically unconditional surrender. They give themselves to truth. I'm yours. There's no such thing as selfish enlightenment. That's not a possibility. The self, the false self, gives itself up. Enlightenment occurs when awareness becomes aware of itself and stays aware of itself. And in that, the I drops because it's clearly seen to be not who you are, clearly seen to be false self. And so the seeker, which is an ego-based identity as well, also drops because that's not real either. So ultimately, it all goes. But for the mind and the ego to get to that stage where it's willing to give it all up, there really needs to be a love affair. In that love affair, the mind becomes willing. In that love affair, it drops everything for the beauty. And it's quite often that love affair begins with the love of a teacher, someone who's representing truth. For me, it was Osho Rajneesh. I fell in love with Osho and had this most beautiful love affair of the heart with him. In that love affair, I surrendered, I accepted, and that's the key. It's the removal of all the things that create contraction, the removal of all the things that offer resistance in the world. The more resistant we are, the chances are the more we're locked in lower consciousness, because you have to be dreaming to be resistant. And dreaming is lower consciousness. Someone who's awake is present to reality. But the world lives in a kind of a dream. Their future projections, their past memories, their problem-solving dreams, their worrying dreams. But it's all dream. It's all lower consciousness. So the seeker strives to get out of that, to escape the matrix of the mind and find themselves as reality. And that is the quest, the seeker of wisdom and truth. And so Osho was a wonderful guide. He pointed the way quite clearly. And so much love there. I think it's hard for seekers who don't have a guide. I think the ego is such a tricky character. It can fool you into so many things. It can pretend to be silent. It can even pretend to be love. It's such a pretender. It can pretend to know the way, but it doesn't. It knows how to survive, and that's what it does best, and that's what it was designed for. But because we, as human beings, are intelligent, we can learn to go beyond that. The seeker can go beyond that. The seeker can fall in love with truth and practice acceptance, practice surrender. It's up to you. You're the one that's going to do the work. Nobody will do it for you. Any questions? Any statements? Any challenge to these teachings today?
The first question is as follows. What is the most important skill for a seeker to develop?
Well, ultimately it's surrender, the ability to let go. And that is such a hard skill to develop because nowhere in our programming are we programmed to let go. We might be programmed to conditionally let go because we're getting something from the let go, but it's just so foreign to us. The greatest skill a human being can gain in the quest to higher consciousness enlightenment is the ability to let go of everything. You try it and you'll find out how hard it is. Oh, when I say everything, I mean beliefs, ideologies, property, relationships, your life, everything.
The next question has been written by Kelly. You often say awareness becomes aware of itself. Are you saying we become aware of the awareness?
What was the last part of that question? Sorry.
Are you saying that we become aware of the awareness?
We become aware that we are the awareness because awareness becomes aware of itself. You see, most human beings think they're the mind and the body, and it's just not true, Kelly. We are that is aware. We are pure consciousness. And when awareness or consciousness becomes conscious of itself or aware of itself, that is enlightenment. And then we can't at all believe that we're an I or a body because we're simply the witness of it all. That's enlightenment. But there's this false notion that we are the mind and body, and it's the cause of all suffering. We are that's aware. And so the quest for the seeker is to find that and become aware of that is aware, and stay aware of that. And if that occurs, awareness being aware of itself, that is in an ongoing way, that is enlightenment. If it's only a glimpse, it's a satori. And satoris are just invitations to do the work to come home. I hope that helps, Kelly.
Next, Jennifer would like to ask a question.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, Vishrant. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Awesome. So I've been thinking about this idea of choice versus choicelessness. And, more and more, I guess, situations that have come up in my life more recently have kind of led me to an insight of there's the what is, in life. There's life happening, and my choice is how I am in that. There's things that I can control and there's things that I can't control, but I can choose how I am in that. But then I also think about what led me to that insight, and I feel like that part is somewhat choiceless. Like I didn't choose to come to that insight. That was more of a happening that happened to me. And so I guess I get a little bit confused, and maybe I don't even really need to know. I don't know, but there's like feels like there's a bit of a gravitational pull at some point, and that there's it's hard to know who's doing who or what's doing what. Like I have discipline and I can be disciplined, and that discipline has arisen as a demand, like it's been a happening. So I guess I get a little entangled in what's what, and maybe I don't need to know, but that is somewhat of my question.
So, in my understanding, we actually don't have free will. Because, and I'll give you the reason for that, we never programmed ourselves. I was programmed by my parents, by my schooling, by my church. The basic default patterns were put in externally by genetics and by causal activity, education. I never programmed myself. And at some point, I was programmed to deprogram myself, but I never put that program in either.
Yeah.
And so, where do I get to actually have free will if all the choices I make are made because of someone else's programming into me?
I guess there's nothing.
So, for 30 odd years now, I've been helping people deprogram in a lot of ways because their programming was detrimental to them. And if we look at what works for higher consciousness, there's a lot of programs that we were given that actually don't work, that are in the way. And so we could call these obstacles to higher consciousness or obstacles to enlightenment. And a lot of the work is in removing these obstacles. You okay there, Jennifer?
Yeah, I'm just sitting with that, the taking away of what's been put there.
So, in a way, it's a little bit like human beings are hot air balloons, but we're so full of ideas, understandings, belief systems, defense systems that we can't fly, we can't rise.
Right.
And the only way we can rise is to start taking some of them away and throwing them out. And the more belief systems, the more defense systems that create contraction in us that we can throw out of this balloon that we are, the higher we can go. And at the highest levels, we basically have to throw ourselves out.
Right. And I guess what I'm hearing from that is that the moment, I guess, moment to moment, the choice is, I guess, acceptance of what's there is what is removing
Well,
the
that's the
program.
beginning. That's the beginning. I mean, if we can begin everything with acceptance, we're on the way home, because
Mm,
acceptance is the great undoer,
mm,
if you like. It's the one that takes us out of suffering.
yeah.
Our
Or sep-
non-acceptance is what causes suffering.
mm-hmm.
Pain doesn't cause suffering. Non-acceptance of pain, our resistance to pain, causes suffering. Our resistance to life causes suffering.
Mm. And I hear also from that, like, I guess, a degree of just constantly separating, like peeling apart through witnessing what it is that I'm seeing, whether that be in myself and my resistance or my thoughts or my everything. It's just continually separating.
Well, it's an undoing, isn't it? It's a great
Mm-hmm.
undoing. It's an undoing process, because we were never programmed to even be happy, let alone enlightened.
Yeah.
We were all programmed to be efficient little machines.
Mm-hmm.
And most people are efficient little machines, because that's what we were taught at school. We weren't taught how to be happy or how to be free.
Right.
Well, I wasn't.
No, neither.
Anything else, Jennifer?
No, I think I'm good. I'm good with that.
No, good.
Yeah, thank you for your time and your work.
My pleasure, Jennifer.
Thank you. Take care.
The next question has been written by Enrique. What were your obstacles as a seeker, Vishrant? Love from Peru.
Sorry. Go ahead. What were my obstacles? Gosh. Go ahead.
That was the question.
Oh, what were my obstacles as a seeker? How about everything? All I had to do was look in the mirror. The obstacle was there. And that's what people don't recognize. You are the obstacle. You are the thing that's in the way of higher consciousness. You are the thing that's in the way of love. You are the thing that's in the way of enlightenment. You, as an I, are the problem. And it's not that you're the enemy. You're not the enemy. You're just something that needs to get undone so freedom can occur. And undoing yourself, that's the work. That's the work. And so when I look at what was the arrogance, how about arrogance? How about thinking I knew when I really didn't? I think that's one of the greatest obstacles in the way of all seekers, when they think they know because they've collected knowledge from either Satori or from other teachers, and now they're remembering it and they think they know. If you think you know, you're lost. The more you go up in consciousness levels, the less you realize you know anything. And at the top level, you know nothing. It is arrogant to think we know, but we try to think we know so we can control our environment and feel safe. Bottom line is, we don't know. And so I would say the greatest obstacle that was in my way was the arrogance of thinking I knew because of knowledge I'd collected, either through Satori or through listening to other teachers. You have to become humble enough to not know, always being a beginner, always.
What do seekers tend to fail to recognize that prevents them from waking up?
You don't make it. It's a party that you as an I don't come to. Not really. You don't make it. People want enlightenment for themselves. There's no possibility of that. The I can't wake up. It's a dream. It's just, it doesn't wake up. Awareness becomes aware of itself. The I is actually redundant. The understanding that you can do it, you can't do it. You can surrender. Yeah, you can do that. But that's a non-doing as well, and that can only come through practice. It's hard. There's no anyone who tells you that higher consciousness and enlightenment is easy hasn't really tried it. It's not easy. It's hard because you have to go against your own survival mechanism and win, and that means you as an I die or surrender unconditionally, which is death. There's the false one leaves the building. And what's left is who you truly are, pure awareness, just witnessing, silent, still, and here. You don't become enlightened. That's a fallacy. Enlightenment occurs, and as a result of that, people will feel a Buddha field around you, energy field that'll expand their minds, which is the only way you can tell if someone's awake anyway. Your personality will be used to communicate to the world if you're still talking. But there won't be a sense of somebody there anymore. The I will have dropped. The identified one will have gone.
What is the attraction to awakening if I will never make it?
Good question. I don't know. For me, I was a curious one. I wasn't trying to escape the world. I wasn't trying to escape pain or suffering. I was just curious. What is this all about? What's this mountain all about? Because I'd climbed the mountain in business and done reasonably well in business, got to the top of that mountain and went, well, there's nothing here. It's rubbish. What's this spiritual mountain? What's this mountain of higher consciousness? I got curious. Found myself with Osho Rajneesh, and he talked about the top of the mountain. And I was interested. I found out to get to the top of the mountain, you have to be a nothing. You have to be a nobody going nowhere. And so in business, it was a little different. In business, it was like you have to stand alone in resistance to be successful. In higher consciousness, you have to stand alone in surrender. But curiosity killed this cat.
The next question has been written by a viewer. Is there any purpose to this game of awareness, playing hide and seek with itself?
Well, it depends on what your understanding of past lives and future lives are. If you remember your past lives, you'll remember that every life was similar and that every life was suffering and that in every life you lost everything you had and you suffered the grief of that. And you don't want to do it again. You want to end samsara. Enlightenment is freedom from samsara, freedom from the I. It is freedom. And so what you're going for as an individual is freedom basically from your own mind. That might sound odd, but if you look at how your life is, how you resist life, how you don't accept certain things, how you create suffering for yourself when you lose things because you've been hanging on to them, you'll see that life after life after life has been a life of suffering. Enlightenment offers freedom. It's up to you. What do you want? You're going to create your reality because you're responsible. What do you want?
Do seekers need to remove themselves from the marketplace intermittently or for longer periods of time to wake up?
Well, some people think so. People join monasteries, become monks, become nuns, or join ashrams, become sadhus. I don't teach people who have joined monasteries or ashrams. I teach lay people, people who are in the marketplace, people who have families, people who have jobs. Because in a lot of quarters, it is believed that unless you actually remove yourself from society, join a monastery, become a monk or a nun, you can't wake up. That's absolute rubbish. You can wake up in the marketplace, absolutely, while holding down a job, while having a family, while having children. Absolutely possible. You just need to learn to surrender, learn to let go. That's all. If you can let go of everything, you've prepared the mind for enlightenment. And if you're in the marketplace, you'll have lots of opportunity to let go of things, particularly if you're in a relationship with someone. Lots of opportunities to let go. Lots of opportunities for the mind to learn what it needs to learn, which is unconditional surrender. And so I don't have much comment on people who go to monasteries or ashrams. Good for them. But I'm into helping people in the marketplace. People who aren't playing life be out of it, but are playing life be in it. I encourage people to squeeze the juice out of life, to be in this world, like Zorba, but not of it, like the Buddha.
What is it like to be in the world and active, but not of the world?
Fun? It's very much like being a little kid again, like being a 2-year-old, wandering around without a thought of the future or a thought of the past, in absolute wonderment. That's about as close as I can say it is. But even that's not true, because it depends on how vast awareness is of itself, as depends on what's being seen at any given moment, or what's being witnessed at any given moment. Our little 2-year-old doesn't witness themselves as the universe, but they're still in wonderment.
Are those who wish to live a life in service considered seekers?
In service to what? In service to what? I mean, you can serve in the police force, or serve in the fire brigade, or serve in the ambulances, or serve in the military. There's lots of different types of service. What are you talking about? What sort of service?
I guess service to humanity.
You want to know if people who are serving humanity, I think all of those categories serve humanity, but are they actually seekers? Maybe, maybe not. A seeker is someone who wants to know the truth of self, who wants to raise their conscious levels. They're a little different. I wouldn't say all the people in the military or the police force or the ambulance brigade are interested in waking up. Would you?
No, I wouldn't think so either.
Where the heck did that question come from then?
I think a better way of asking a similar question would be how important is it for a seeker to live a life of service?
Ah, it's up to the seeker. I mean, once you find love, once you perceive love, how that affects the mind is you just want to help everyone and everything. That's just how the love affects the mind. And so someone who's got a lot of love in their life, if perceiving a lot of love, will probably want to be in service. It's a natural progression. And if someone's really had a good look at themselves and had a good look for the meaning of life and discovered there really probably isn't one, there's just life, well, here we are. What are we going to do while we're here? And if there's love, well, you want to help other human beings or animals or the planet, because that's how love affects the mind.
Next question has been written by Govinda. Hello, Vishrant. While doing witnessing meditation, sometimes there is emptiness for a short time. What is this? Is it my mind's imagination?
It can be, and maybe not. The mind is amazingly good at creating whatever it wants through its ability to imagine. But the thing about the emptiness of what we truly are is it never, ever, ever gets stale. Whereas anything the mind's produced, whether it's silence or emptiness or stillness or love, if the mind's produced it through its ability to imagine, it will get stale. The real thing never, ever gets stale. It is always fresh.
The next question has been written by Enrique. My brother-in-law's stepson isn't doing well at school at all. I always try to help him. Sometimes it works, but sometimes he's a complete rebel and resists a lot anybody's help. What to do here?
It is only a true rebel that will ever wake up. It is only a true rebel that will eventually go against their own mind's programming and change it all. Anybody who has higher consciousness has rebelled. Whatever you do not remove the rebellion out of this child. It is their best chance for freedom. It is only in true rebellion, which is the rebellion against your own programming, that you can get free. I encourage everybody to be a rebel, to be an anarchist against their own mind, because its programming is so limiting. Undo the mind, rebel against all the programming, and be free.
Must a seeker renounce anything on their path to enlightenment?
Yes, themselves. You don't need to renounce your property, your money, your partners, your children. You don't need to renounce anything really except this. See? So if you renounce this, you're not attached to anything anymore. Let go, let go, let go, let go of this and be free. I don't support renunciation. You can have everything you want, just don't ever be attached to anything. I look at Osho with his 93 or 94 Rolls Royces. Absolutely positive he wasn't attached to one of them, let alone 93. Attachment is one of the great causes of suffering. It's one of the great causes of identification. Let go, let go, let go, and be free.
The next question has been written by a viewer. Vishrant, how does rebellion and acceptance work together?
Okay, so if we're just talking about your own mind, not the world, just talking about your own mind, when you start witnessing it, you allow your mind to accept everything that is seen. Everything. You accept everything that is there. And in this acceptance, the mind can start to relax. Now, in seeing the mind, in seeing how it's working, you can start to see things that are actually in the way of freedom, things that are causing contraction in you, belief systems that may have expectations attached to them that cause contraction, detrimental to higher consciousness. Because they're seen, they can now be removed. This is the rebellion. Watching the mind, removing the detrimental, or at least not running them. This is the true rebellion. You're rebelling against your own programming, but it always begins with acceptance. Always. Never ever go to war with your own mind. Always, always accept it. People think sometimes that if you accept something, there's no change. I just don't agree. You can accept what is and move to change. Absolutely. You can accept the detrimental parts of your mind and still not let them run or actually change them. That's up to you. That is the true rebellion. Because we were not programmed to be free. We were not even programmed to be happy. Rebel.
How do I give up the need to constantly be in control?
Sorry, what was that question?
How do I give up the need to constantly be in control?
Okay. Well, the constant need to control keeps you stuck, doesn't it? Have a look at it. Have a look at what control is. Isn't it just survival? Isn't you just wanting to feel safe? Isn't that why you want to control? Let go. Let go. Be free. Hang on to nothing. Let go. Let go. Let go. The more controlling you are, the more likely you are caught in survival patterns. Acceptance is the key to freedom, not resistance. Resistance is the pathway to hell, actually. Acceptance is the pathway to heaven. Let go. Don't hold on to anything, ever. Just let go and see how freeing it is to let go. Ultimately, we hang on to our lives, to our sanity. Let go of them too. See how freeing it is to not be controlling. Because the moment we move to control is the moment we put ourselves in a prison. Have a look and see for yourself. Don't believe me. Have a look.
When you refer to having a look, what is the difference between analyzing the mind and just investigating it?
Well, investigating and analysing are basically the same in a lot of ways because they're both dream orientated. There is a difference when it comes to witnessing the mind. In witnessing the mind, we're just watching it, like we're watching an animal in the wild. We're not making any judgments about it. We're not thinking about it. We're just witnessing what it's doing. And in the witnessing, we can see how it behaves. We can see its mannerisms. We can see its habits. And the same when you're witnessing the mind. You just watch it. You don't judge it. You don't analyze it. And so there's a difference between doing that and investigating and analyzing. Investigating and analyzing, in a lot of ways, are still dream based. Witnessing is different because what's the witness? If you keep witnessing the mind without involvement, eventually you'll start to find you are the witness. What is the witness? Nothing but your own true nature. And this was Osho Rajneesh's main technique towards enlightenment, to witness the mind. It's a methodology that works. But the moment you get into judgment or analyzing, you're not witnessing anymore. You're actually lost in another dream, the dream of analyzing. Come back to witnessing. Just watch what's happening. It's very beautiful. Allows you detachment from the mind, allows you a certain level of freedom. And when the witness becomes aware of itself, enlightenment occurs. Ego drops. Beautiful.
The next question has been written by Usha. After the last retreat, I have become very silent and just don't want to ask any questions or discuss anything. Please comment. I'm just open and happy for no reason at all.
Usha, you don't have to do anything, ever. Everything's okay just as it is. When you engage somebody in questioning who's awake, you're going to be thrown into deeper silence. You're going to be thrown back towards yourself. That's what awake teachers do. It's up to you. When I was a seeker, I was the guy in the room who always had my hand up asking the questions because I knew what was happening energetically. I could feel myself being blown apart by the people who were answering the questions who were enlightened. I knew I was being undone energetically. And so I was always asking questions. I was probably annoying. But I really, really wanted to know my own true self. And I was willing to do anything to facilitate that. But it doesn't matter if you don't ask questions. It doesn't matter. You stay silent. That's okay. In that silence, have a look and see what's aware of the silence.
The next question. Why is it sometimes so annoying when people disagree with me, especially when it comes from someone who's really close, like my partner or a child?
You ask, why is it so annoying? I say, what an opportunity to practice acceptance and surrender. Instead of getting caught in the story of annoyance, becoming a victim of whoever it is that you're involved with, what about having a look at how you're contracting, how you're resisting, what belief systems have come into play, and how about undoing them all? I found that the people who are closest to me, my partners, were my greatest teachers because they showed me where I was stuck. They showed me where I was still caught because I'd contract against what they were saying or what they were doing. What an opportunity it is to be with someone who can show you where you're still caught, where you're contracting and resisting life. What an opportunity. What a gift. Or you can get righteous and get arrogant and miss out completely, or you can start undoing yourself through the practice of acceptance of what is. Your choice.
Next, Alex would like to ask a question.
Hello, Alex.
Hi, Vishrant. As I sit here, I can feel a bit of stress in my body or in my awareness. I guess there's a feeling of sort of wanting to get away from it a bit. So I think that's the wrong direction. How best to be with it?
As you sit there and you have awareness on a little bit of stress, but as you sit there, what else are you aware of while you're talking to me?
Spaciousness.
Put your awareness on the spaciousness. You see, we tend to live where our awareness is at. Put your awareness on the spaciousness.
Thank you.
How is that? How is that now?
The spaciousness is more perceivable.
Yes. Wherever we put our awareness is where we live. Someone who's awake has their awareness on beingness. And so they live as beingness. Keep putting your awareness on the spaciousness. Find yourself as truth. Okay, Alex?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question. You've said before that a seeker needs to understand how the nuts and bolts of the mind works in order to undo it. What is the best practice to understanding the nuts and bolts of the mind?
The best practice is witnessing the mind. Just watching what the mind's doing without judgment. That's the best practice. The second best practice is go and find yourself someone who's awake and have them take you apart. Have them show you what's happening inside of you. Ask lots of questions. Become an irritation. That's the best. Witnessing the mind, being involved with someone who's actually already done the work, who knows the way, who can show you. That's the best. One of the things I didn't do was listen to peers. I listened to my awake teachers, followed their instructions to the letter, but I wasn't interested in what my peers had to say. That would be like the lost leading the lost. In witnessing the mind, you get to see it all working. You get to see what works, what doesn't work. You get to see the obstacles, the defense systems, the belief systems that are actually being detrimental. You then have the opportunity to change that. In being with someone who's awake, in a sangha of someone who's awake, you have an opportunity to be shown where you might be caught, where you might still be stuck. And in my path, that's how I went. I started when I was 19, being involved in groups that were looking at how it was all working, why the mind was doing what it was doing, what was detrimental and what was favourable, undoing the things that were not favourable. And then through my meeting with Osho Rajneesh, witnessing the mind, being the witness of the mind. and ultimately knowing self as witness. Pure awareness, just here, just now. It's up to you. What are you going to do?
Next, Savi would like to ask a question.
It's Susha.
Hey, Susha.
So, where should one put their awareness when the pain body emerges?
Okay, so depends on where you're at. But from my perspective, ambient awareness is best. Being aware of everything at once, not being focused on anything in particular. And when you have ambient awareness, the mind is absolutely relaxed. But if you're looking for beingness, you put awareness on beingness, you put awareness on awareness. Depends on at what stage you're at in this process of awakening or being awake. If you're awake, there is no effort required anymore. Awareness is locked onto itself. If you're not awake yet, but you can find beingness, well, you turn awareness onto awareness through self-inquiry. That works very effectively. But generally speaking, living life, be ambient. Don't be so focused. Because whatever you put your awareness on, you're going to basically live as. And so if you put your awareness on your pain body, you're going to live as a pain body. If you put your awareness on an irritated mind, you're going to live as an irritated mind. How about just going ambient and allowing it all just to be a tapestry without any form of focus? What do you say, Susha?
Yes, but sometimes, so awareness moves, and awareness moves to the pain body, awareness moves to beingness, awareness moves, and so I'm watching that it just moves, and I'm not doing anything about it. Is that okay, or should I be putting effort?
As a seeker, I kept turning awareness back to itself because I was interested in enlightenment. So I kept turning awareness back to self, back to itself through self-inquiry. When that established, there wasn't any more need to do that. It just stayed on itself. Now, just talking to you, awareness is on self. So there's the knowing of self is basically the universe. But it's also out here and with you. And so awareness is out here, but it's ambient. It's not focused. It might seem like it's focused, but it's not. It's ambient. Mind's absolutely relaxed.
Okay. Thank you.
Be cool, Susha. Be cool.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
The next question has been written by Vanita. Hi Vishrant. Doing daily chores and making efforts towards a goal to the best of your ability and still remaining as a non-doer. How to maintain the balance? Please comment.
Okay, the sense of non-doership only really properly occurs after enlightenment. Up until enlightenment, there is a sense that there is a somebody that is doing something, that has been somewhere, that is probably going somewhere. When enlightenment happens, when awareness becomes aware of itself and stays aware of itself, the sense of doership drops completely. There's nobody doing anything. Like there's no experience here of somebody doing talking. There's no sense of a doer here. There's an absence, actually. But that happened 22 years ago as a result of awareness becoming aware of itself. Before that, there was a sense of doership. And then after that, there hasn't been since. I hope that helps.
The next question has been written by Dan. Hi Vishrant. So the illusion of separation between one and the rest of reality, that is the source of all dissatisfaction? Thank you.
Pretty much. That'll do. I'll buy that. Absolutely, Dan. Yeah. In awareness being aware of itself, there's a sense that we are everything, that nothing is separate, that there is no duality whatsoever. And in that, there is no suffering. Suffering does come from the sense of being something separate. But that's a dream. The I is a dream. You take away imagination, because the one that thinks it's separate is the I. You take away imagination and the I doesn't exist. In truth, we are everything. We are pure awareness. We're not the body and the mind. Well, we are. We're everything. But it's not just who we are. It's like you're asking me a question and you're considering yourself separate from me asking that question. I'm just answering myself. We are one. And we can't be any other way, actually. Pure awareness is everything. Pure consciousness is everything. And some people say, well, they wake up and they say, well, I am God, because God is omnipotent, everything. Well, it's true, we are everything. But there's no personal God. There's no personal you. There's no personal for that matter. There is just beingness as self. What Ramana Maharshi called the I. And if I shut my eyes, that's exactly where I am, everywhere. Out here, I'm everywhere and I'm with you. But this is an illusion. We are one. We are everything. And from my perspective, the Namaste is simply an acknowledgement that we are not two, we are one. Thank you for Satsang. Good to see you brave hearts here today.